talk more generally about where we are. Joining me are the Labour MP Rupert Hook, from the Conservatives, are joined by the MP Gillian Keegan. Welcome to you both. Gillian Keegan, you're listening to that hard. Do you think the European research groups have got the answers?
No, unfortunately not. But I don't think we're listening to anything we haven't listened to before. You know, I think the European Research Group obviously represent a view which is kind of quite a hard view, really, which is let's leave, let's completely, you know, minimise the cooperation with Europe. Let's pretend we haven't had an operating model that existed for the last 43 years, and let's basically rip that up and you know, go on to WTO. Now, I don't know how many businesses have to say that WTO would be damaging and this deal that the Prime Minister's put forward is workable before they'll start to listen to a view which is a bit wider than their own. If you're trying to come up with the answer based on ideological principles, you'll come up with one answer. If you're trying to come up with the answer based on how the world works today, how businesses operate today, how the economy operates again today, you will come up with a different answer. And that's the one the Prime Minister has taken.
I expect there's a lot, apart from that last sentence, that you would agree with there.
I think I agree completely with what Gillian said, and I imagine we both voted Remain in that first referendum, or second if you count the 70s one as the first. I think these are really yesterday's men, sort of tetchy, grumpy, and it didn't look very diverse, did it? I think if that was a Labour platform, we'd have made sure at least there's a woman there, if not someone of colour or something. I mean, it did look a bit like a end of the pier show. But the problem is, these people used to be the lunatic fringe of the Conservative Party, and now, because of where we are, they've sort of got mass airtime on Sky, and they've got the ear of the government. They're holding Theresa May to ransom.
Partly down to parliamentary arithmetic, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's the miscalculation of having an election when Theresa May had a majority and ending up losing that, giving us 30 more MPs. We saw the votes last night. That, you know, this could be doable. We could defeat them very easily. There was one amendment, I think we only missed by 5 votes yesterday.
Where the Democratic Unionists backed you.
Yes, so exactly, they've lost patience. I think a lot of people who were saying, let's wait and see, people like Joe Johnson for ages were saying, let's wait and see, are losing patience.
But I mean, the paradox is, though, actually, if you defeat Mrs May's deal, isn't there a risk that you actually hand the initiative to people that we've just seen at the European Research Group in terms of no deal?
Doesn't have to be like that. I mean, she's putting it out that it's her way or the highway, this Hobson's choice. But, I mean, there's no logic that it has to be that or nothing. With normal amendments, it's not a binary in that way. So I think she's trying to frighten people with the fear of Jeremy Corbyn, whip them into line to voting for her deal. But, I mean, there's reports in the press this morning that they're even looking at a second deal if this one doesn't make it. And, as you say, the arithmetic doesn't stack up.
Do you think the alternative would be no deal if
well, that's the path we're on. So we've already signed a whole load of agreements, which basically mean, you know, we will leave on that path if something else doesn't happen. So there's something else that's going to happen. Well, we've put forward, or the Prime Minister's put forward, this sort of negotiation, which has taken, you know, thousands of people 2 years to get to. And, you know, some people have the view that they could do a better job. Well, that's a bit of arrogance, I think. Other people have the view that there's all kinds of different deals on offer. I don't think it is. I think this is, and this deal is quite good. If you look at, it keeps frictionless trade, it ends freedom of movement, we take the common fishery and farming policy back into our own control. And all the scare stories that have been on the papers for the last few months, it avoids all of them. Even if you thought they were ridiculous or you thought they were absolutely vital and were going to happen, it avoids all of them. This is a good deal, and I think the question for the Labour Party is, at some point they will have to move from the playing politics, because this is one of those moments in our history where you have to get it right. And playing politics, or the parlour game of party politics, they'll have to move on from, and hopefully their constituents and business in their constituents' interests will be at the top of their mind.
I mean, we've seen playing politics within the Conservative Party.
I know
within the Conservative
yeah. Well, you're bigger than that. If you
know,
care about the country and you don't have an ideological view, and you do care about businesses and your constituents, you could look at this with just... Forget who's put it forward, just look at it in the round and think this actually works.
The question to pose is really, is it better than the deal that we have now as existing full members? And I've asked Theresa May that before. and she's unable to say yes because it's not.
It depends if ending free movement's important to you.
There is a third way, so it doesn't have to be her way or the highway. We can put this back to the great British general public. Is this what you thought you were getting? Because people voted in good faith. They thought they were getting £350 million a week for the NHS.
But we understand that. But what do you say to the point that, in the end, this goes quite a long way to what Keir Starmer and others have outlined as the sort of deal that you could get?
It doesn't meet our 6 tests, which is sort of to replicate exactly what we've got now. I mean, we had 5 tests at the time of the euro. Part of this was taking control of our money, our goods, our borders, all those things. We always had the pound. I think a lot of people are thinking, even Aaron Banks, and there's been massive illegality around this as well that has been lost in the swell. Yeah. It was illegally delivered. It was improbable things we were promised. It's impossible to realise all these things that people were promised. So I think it's a totally democratic thing. 2 years ago, the Conservatives chose a leader. Some of them, we've just seen them on the screen, don't want to keep that leader in perpetuity by the same logic.
Understands that you're in opposition there, that you're unimpressed by the Conservative Party with the support of the DUP, but at some point you will have to give a clear alternative, won't you, particularly if you're in the position that you might be about, as you say, to defeat the government, as to whether it's a second referendum, it's renegotiation and leave on March the 29th, and we don't have that yet.
It's a set of processes. So sort of if this deal is defeated, which it looks like it's not got a very good chance of getting through, we've done all the figures, then I think at the end of that flowchart of doom, if you like, then I think a people's vote becomes a good option. And there's growing numbers of Conservatives who are speaking out for this. So yesterday night, Gillian was there. We were both there very late. It was 9:30 or something. Both Joe Johnson, honourable man, thoughtful person, who all this time has held his tongue and thought, wait and see what's going to come out of this. It leaves us worse off. So he's come out for a people's vote. Justine Greening in that same debate. You know, some serious people, Dominic Grieve. And whether you voted Leave or Remain, you have a chance to sort of, you know, endorse her deal or not. And the worst possible thing, if you're saying her deal's not that bad, is we get her
I think
not
it's
that
workable.
bad deal.
And as you know, I've spent 30 years in the commercial world, and I think it's workable. The people's vote, they don't actually want a people's vote. They want an answer which only comes back Remain. Because if they go through all that process again, it comes back Lean. So if they want a Remain vote, and so the question is...
But if we are in that situation where this deal has been rejected by the Commons, would you really resist the people's vote?
I think it's an abdication of our duty. Honestly, if we as elected politicians...
But then the referendum was
Amber Rudd.
Yes, and potentially, you know, there's a lot of people who may have a view on whether that was a good thing to do or not, particularly those looking at the television today. But the reality is that was done. You can't go back in time. You can only go forward in time. We're really seriously expecting the people to really choose between very complex scenarios and analyse the risk of who they believe. I mean, you know, this is 585 pages just for the withdrawal element of the agreement.
With a no-deal hard
Amber Rudd
Brexit,
has said
you would
she
probably
would
back
rather.
it, wouldn't you, in the end?
A lot of people. Alistair
I mean,
has said.
I think there's a number... I don't know, to be honest. I honestly do not agree with asking the same question again.
But it wouldn't be the same question.
It is because you want the same answer.
It
really is because you want the same answer.
If the same answer as last time came out, at least it would be a more legitimate answer because people knew what they were getting. In Southern Ireland, when they had a vote on abortion, the actual text of what they're getting was that it was 70-30.
I don't think so. I think it's not legitimate to ask the question twice.
It is.
It undermines the first one.
Well, we'll see. It might get through. I just want to ask you in the meantime where you think we are with this Conservative push for a confidence vote.
Oh, I think, well, I mean, I was on last week and I thought it was absolutely going to happen. You know, there was 84 was talked about at one point and then 8 and 48. You have to plan, if you're in the Prime Minister's situation, you have to plan that this is going to happen. Now, at the moment, it's looking a bit more cloak than dagger, or all cloak and no dagger, but I don't know. You have to plan that it may happen. The thing is, there's threats all around the Prime Minister. There's threats from the DUP, from the Scottish parties, from the Labour Party, from the ERG. She is surrounded by people who are really trying to get their narrow view represented, opportunism. We have about another month where I am hopeful that all of those groups grow up.
If it comes to you'd back her, though, in a vote, would you?
Oh, 100%. I mean, to be honest, it's really clear to me that this deal, and Rupert says, what does it deliver? If free movement was important to you, ending free movement, it delivers it. If getting control of fishing and farming was important to you, it delivers it. For some people, Rupert, that was highly important, and you know, I think this is a workable deal that avoids all the scare stories, that business back, and I think it's time for us to back business.
OK, we're going to have to leave it, I'm afraid. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is All Out Politics. Coming up next, what can Mrs May learn about leadership from American presidents of the past? We'll find out in a moment.